Yes.
Yeah, it was sad. Alright, fun fact about that song. This song was the song I chose to sing when I first gave my testimony at my church. That song means so much to me because really I am no stranger to the prison.
That's right.
Let me give you a little story about my life and what God has done for me. Sorry, I'm a bit shaky up here, but when I was a toddler, I was diagnosed with this incurable disease called autism. And what that brought for me was like trouble with speech. I couldn't say certain words. And I had learning disabilities. And an example of my learning disabilities was I was a visual learner. And I often had a hard time writing. As you'll see in this notebook, this was from when I was in 3rd grade. You'll see I had these definitions for a science class, but you'll notice that they're copied and pasted on there. That's because I couldn't write very well. And underneath the definitions, you'll see pictures. That was an example of my visual learning because I couldn't learn by words like most people would. I had to see the picture with it. And another thing I struggled with my autism was touch. And she knows that very well. What was autism like for me? It was like what my friend Luana said. It was a prison. Just like it was in the song, I'm no stranger to that prison. And it's like I couldn't, because people with autism, they can't communicate. They can't often communicate with people around them, and I didn't let people communicate to me or do anything with me or whatever. But I have actually wrote out a letter to describe what my autism felt like. I wrote this during a time of trouble and stuff because I struggled with autism greatly when I dealt with this, but I wrote out this little speech. Most of you know, but I address this towards a different audience. Most of you know that I have dealt with autism my whole life. But do you know what it means to deal with autism? Being autistic is almost like living a typical life, but with obstacles and everyday activities like talking to people. I struggled with that. Still do. Well, I've not always been very good at the socialization and whatnot. I've normally been able to talk to people much older than me than with people my own age. But for some people, when you touch them, it feels like pins and needles poking into your skin every time some stranger tries to hug you or do anything. People will question your abilities, but I tried to tell them. They just couldn't understand. And because of that, meltdowns did happen. This is a sensory overload that happens in intense situations. Sights, sounds, and smells are all received like people placing grocery bags in your hands. And sometimes more stuff is placed in your arms than you can handle, and so you drop it all. Like maybe on a bus where too many people, or when standing in the middle of a crowded line. Yeah, those are my can of groceries right there. We deal with it by extraordinary fidgeting, chewing, and stimming. And stimming is a repetitive movement, for those of y'all who don't know what that is. An example of my stimulations was rocking back and forth, hand flapping, etc. But that was just my way of putting away the groceries before I drop it all on the floor and have a meltdown. But let me tell you something, don't ever let those difficulties mislead you. A lot of autistic kids are very smart and very creative.
Yep.
A lot of them really do care, but some don't know how to express it. I, on the other hand, have always found it easier to express myself in the singing that I couldn't do in the 3rd grade, writing. I've actually learned how to write better over the years. Some people who are nonverbal use computers and iPads to say what they want to say. But next time you see someone with these characteristics, please look for ways to help them be all they can be. They're truly amazing. But now, I've dealt with autism a little differently. Most of y'all don't know this, but my dad is a pastor in the United Methodist Church. And every year, he gets a call whether he's staying with the church or moving. And we got that call a couple times that we were moving, but none of them required us to actually move. But this one particular year, my sophomore year of high school, we got that call that we are moving. And this time, we had to actually move. It was very, very hard on me because I had autism, and it caused me to spiral and go backwards. I struggled hard for a year. But then I went to this conference. It's called Aldersgate Renewal Ministries. It's truly a great conference. It's a spirit-filled thing that you go to every year. Yeah, but I struggled during that whole weekend. We stayed in a hotel, and we were on the 7th floor of the hotel. And I didn't like dealing with crowds, so I really didn't like going on elevators up and down and all that. So you want to know what I did instead? Was climb 7 flights of stairs. Trust me, it got pretty tiring after the whole weekend. It was really bad. But that Saturday night, when we were at this conference, the night before we all went home, I got this feeling that I needed to go up to the altar. I felt God actually speak to me and say I needed to go get prayed over for my healing of autism. And when they prayed over me, let me tell you, I could just feel the changes. I got a slight migraine. That's how I know God truly has healed me. And another thing is, you know that elevator that I had a hard time going on? I climbed the 7 flights of stairs. No, I actually chose to ride the elevator at that time. No problem. God does something big every year at that conference. But let me tell you, that year was above any other. And you want to know how I know that God truly healed me? Was a couple months later in September of my junior year, we went to an IEP meeting. And that's an individual educational plan. It's where you go in and meet with the teachers and discuss all kinds of educational needs for the school year. And somewhere in that meeting, the teacher had stopped us and said that he was sorry that he lost all my medical records of me having autism. Yes, and yeah, they were there the previous year, and they've transferred over from my last school, so he knew he had them, but for some reason God just erased them. Now I graduated high school with a regular diploma that they said I would not get. And even better, I'm in college.
Yeah. Woo! Survived her first semester.
Yes, and I survived my first semester.
Statistically.
Statistics. That was hard. Yeah. But you know what? I didn't actually believe that I could be healed. You know, you hear all these stories saying that all these people are receiving miracles. I didn't believe it was going to happen to me. And to be quite honest, I didn't want God to heal me at first. It made me feel special. But for some reason that night, when I went to the altar, I just felt tired of it. I was ready to give it up. Let me tell you, now I have a story to tell. A story of hope that there is healing. And yeah, if you have anything, just please give it to God. Let Him take care of it. This is amazing, the journey I've been on through this healing and whatnot.
Miracle.
But I encourage y'all to please take whatever it is you have and give it to God. Well, that's my story right there. I actually have another
Short and
song
sweet.
I want to sing for you. It's another song that means a little bit to me.